Hello, everybody. Tonight's topic is going to be a brief one on basically the importance of creating or finding a life's purpose. Now, why on earth do you think that a physician is talking to you about having a definite life purpose? Well, it's actually pretty simple. If you have a goal or something towards which you're striving, whether it's to make your neighborhood a better place, to help a child, to do something with regards to your work, or something that inspires you, it basically gives you a much greater sense of energy. It allows you to bring all of your hidden resources up to the front and move towards a particular goal or purpose, so to say. And if you pick something that's really small, it's not going to be a very inspiring kind of thing. In other words, if your only purpose in life today is to scroll through Facebook, although there might be days where that's a perfectly good purpose in life, depending on the situation, and then it might not seem that exciting to get out of bed that particular day because, hey, my only purpose in life is to lay around on the couch and scroll through my Facebook feed. Whereas if you have a purpose in life to reach for, then not only do you get out of bed more inspired, you say, oh, okay, I can't wait to get started, can't wait to make some progress, do some action towards this goal of beautifying the world, of sharing my knowledge, of spreading the wealth and the love and whatever it is that you have inside your heart that you want to give and share and move in the world. Then the bigger the goal is, you have something to look forward to or something to work for the long haul. So this sort of thing is something that, of course, is very personal, and that is a type of thing that can be worked on and changed throughout the course of a lifetime. So, for example, if you have a particular goal and you suddenly realize, some number of years later, oh, I've reached this goal, well, then you can set up a new horizon and then have something else to aim for as well. And I want to share with you a few things that actually helped me get to where I am today, and is actually helping me to get to the next stage, wherever it ends up taking me on there. So there's a couple of ways you can help with the future, and one way is just to kind of get up every day and the future will just kind of boom, come along and slap you in the face, and next thing you know, we're here. Time will pass. Regardless of whether you're watching this video today or whether you're watching me 3 years from now, the passage of time will happen. We all know this. And the only question is, where do you want to be in those 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, depending on how old you are when you watch this. Who knows, there's a lot of advances in medical and nutrition therapies these days. And so the idea is that the future will come, and whatever actions you're taking today can definitely steer you off in different directions as you go forth into that bold future. And as far as health goes, a lot of health, a huge amount of health, in fact, is based on things that you do, actions that you take today in the present. Now, if you've been going this direction for a good long time, and all of a sudden some doctor like me comes along and says, hey, if you keep on going that path, guess what is going to land up on the other side? That's going to be your diabetes and your heart disease and your cancers or whatever kind of stuff, lions and tigers and things that are lying off in that direction. And by knowing where you've come in the past, and by being able to know something about the latest research and the latest resources, you can actually change your fate and maybe go off in a different direction and have a totally different, more vibrant outcome. Hariam, Deepti. Nice to see you. And Joe too, if I see you're on there as well. Anywho, so the idea of having a sense of purpose, a sense of where you want to go, or how you want to feel, how you want to be, is something that can be very, very inspiring and also help give you a lot of resilience. I was reading some studies on leadership kind of stuff in the last few days especially. I've got some more light reading to do over the next week. And one of the things that was brought up was this idea of this cathedral. Now, the construction of this cathedral had taken 300 years. So somebody started off with a definite purpose, a definite vision. This is this cathedral that we want to build. And then that vision was so powerful and so strong that despite all sorts of fires and setbacks and people dying and all sorts of obstacles that came up, finally, 300 years later, the last brick was laid, the last foundation of this cathedral was put together, and here we are today, or I guess here the guy was in Europe some time ago writing his article, and was able to enjoy the turrets and the majesty of this cathedral. Now, in the same way, if you have something that you have pulling you towards that future, pulling you towards a reason to get up every morning, a reason to live, a reason to overcome all these obstacles, well, that is a huge thing in resiliency. And if you have some emotional charge to it too, that's even better. Here's the very simple thing. I'm so sorry it's going to be backwards, so I'll read it to you. But the idea is that you developed a vision of your potential, something that you want to do, something you want to be, just something. And then over time, you can work on manifesting or making that vision come to life. If someone is creating a cathedral, or if they're creating some art in the background here in this particular location, happens to be some artwork in the background, they didn't just come up with that by slapping some paint on the canvas, although given some of the modern art I've seen once in a while, sometimes it seems like how it happens. But generally speaking, it's got to happen on the mental level before you can use your hands and your body and your colleagues and your other folks around you to actually bring that forth into this material world as well. And so what's the art of leadership? Part of it is having that vision and figuring out how to make it happen, like a clinic, for example. So the idea of having a guiding vision, this is, believe it or not, something I'm going to share with you that I created, oh gosh, well before I even went to medical school. And I'll tell you, even though it kind of got buried for a few years in between a couple of moves, and finally my last move I found it again, and it's inspiring as well. But basically I set the seeds of this vision probably around the year 1995, 1996, somewhere in that realm was when the first seeds, because I can remember in college designing a community clinic and designing, like, I'm a visual kind of person, so my artistry was like envisioning, okay, here's how the building is going to be, and here's the kind of stuff we're going to have, and it's going to be wonderful and awesome, and all sorts of loveliness and so forth. And for a while I was studying some of the motivational speakers, Anthony Robbins, for example, and one of the things that he talked about was figuring out your major, definite life's purpose, and then once you figure out what you want, you design a massive action plan, or a MAP. And I'm sorry, of course it was backwards, because I didn't write it backwards for all of y'all today. But the idea is that as I was trying to figure out, this is my guiding vision, so in order to make this happen, who must I be? Who am I now? Where am I starting from to go forth with this? And who around me do I want to have in my circle that can be with me for this to come about in personal as well as professional manners? Three-part plan for professional development. A, becoming an outstanding doctor. not just an okay one. I didn't want to set my sights too small. Developing other professional traits. What other things are going to be needed in order to really do a good job and make this happen? And then finally putting it all together, the community health center. And then finally, put a thing on there, finding the resources for financial success, because I realized early on that medical school and so forth, usually when a physician graduates from medical school, and especially the one that I went to, they usually graduate with a debt, by the time residency and everything is done, because when you're a resident, you can't pay the much more than the interest usually on the money that is borrowed. So usually people are borrowing somewhere between $200,000 and $300,000 just to get through the medical school, and then over a number of years of residency, that just adds up a bunch of interest, and then finally at the end of all that, usually people are ending their residencies something like $500,000 in debt, and so, I'm not really that rich. So that was a big mental barrier to overcome as I was starting to put together this dream that this massive action plan goes. And so it's not necessarily that I looked at it every single day, but actually for a while I was doing it every day. And it's kind of amazing to me as I look back at this original practice vision, now I get to kind of see how close have I come so far. And so I've got a guide map to see, all right, this is what I was originally thinking back in the 1990s as I first decided, all right, I've got a lot of different avenues in which I could go, and then put all of my resources and all of my efforts into getting into medical school so that I could be of bigger service or better service for people. So I think I'll go ahead and read this to you guys, because this is exactly, it still holds true today, although it's not entirely manifest just in the way. So there was some goal-setting advice. One, decide exactly what you want, and that clarity is part of what this practice vision was, over 20 years ago now. And if you have a clear vision of exactly what you want, it's much, much more likely to actually happen. Not only because when you have some clarity, it really gives some meat to that definiteness of purpose. Write it down, think on paper. I've got a lot of spots where actually I'm a big fan of those, what do you call it, spider diagrams, where you kind of put a topic in the center and then kind of spin out from it, make a little web of little topics. I don't know if it's still in vogue anymore, but think on paper, set a deadline. So if you figure out when is this going to happen, it's not like you're sitting there saying, I'm going to change the world and I'll do it in 50 years. Right now I want to, do something else, have a sandwich or something. But the idea is that if you have a big enough goal, well, it can take your entire lifetime and maybe some other lifetimes in order to make it fully manifest. For example, that cathedral that I started off with, that example, the architects never got to see the final product, but they did see it in their minds before they started out. List everything you can think of that needs to be done to reach this goal. So that actually is where this entire thing came from, because as I started to think of this big goal, boy, all sorts of things came to mind. Like I was reading books on basically how to keep my humanity as I went through medical school, because it kind of, they try to beat the humanity out of you, because long hours and this and that and the other thing. It's a humbling experience, to say the least. Organize the list into plans, prioritize, sequence, take action immediately. And by taking action, it takes it from just being on a piece of paper. So in other words, once you figure out what something is that you want to move towards, then it gives you, it's like a compass. It gives you something by which you can guide your life by. And then you can think of actual actions that kind of move you in that direction. And of course, as you go through life, if you decide that somewhere along the way, hey, you goofed up, you really didn't want to do that goal after all, or you accomplish it, then you can always feel free to set another vision as well. An average plan that's well executed is far better than a brilliant plan, in other words, a perfect plan that has no action on it. So in other words, you do something, and then resolve to do something every single day that will move you towards this goal. So for example, one of my ideas has been to be able to educate patients and the general public on some very simple lifestyle ideas and habits that can help you to have a better sense of purpose, to have a better sense of health, to have a better sense of wellness, and to actually help create that wellness and health and all of those good things that don't just cause you to survive, but to actually thrive in life. And having that definite purpose in life it can be a really, really, really useful tool, a useful idea, and a joy to have. So when those knocks of life come, I gotta tell you, medical school is not an easy thing to survive through. And by having my dream in the back of my mind, say, okay, I can get through this class, I can get through this professor, I can take the knocks a little bit more. Or when if I was working here at my current clinic, when I was working long hours and late hours and all that stuff, the goal really wasn't to work longer hours. It's not to say not to take care of yourself, because that's obviously important. You have to take care of yourself before you can offer that selfless service to try to help others in whatever way you choose to help another human being or somebody else or cats or whatever. And the idea is that by having this vision, by having this dream, it buoys you, it kind of lifts you up and gives you another thing to strive for, and it gives you so much more resilience. And so that's partly why I'm spelling out to you guys some of the stuff that has helped me, just to be as an example of something, because everybody's life is different. Your life goals, my life goals are going to be a little bit different. And so I do encourage you not simply to think in terms of, I'm going to make $1 million. Think more in terms of, all right, why do you want to make $1 million? Or why do you want to have this particular goal? In general, if it's something that serves only yourself, that's okay. It's something that gets you excited and gets you moving. But if there's something that that is in a way able to serve other people at the same time as yourself, or give benefit to somebody, or give service to somebody, or solves a problem or a headache for people, then that's something in which not only will it be motivating to yourself, but will give a nice, clear, compelling vision for others to be able to join you as well. So I'm going to read this to you guys just for fun and to see how it goes as we compare what I'm doing now with this. Remember, this practice vision was created a long time ago. So one of the real joys in life is connecting with people, becoming involved in their lives in a deep and personal way. Over the next 10 years, I plan to become a family practitioner in a rural, medically underserved community. As a physician and an active member of society, I look forward to helping people on many different levels. In addition to primary care and preventative medicine, I plan to create a community education program, like we're doing right now. Professionally and personally, I find the idea of being a family practitioner attractive for many reasons. First of all, the more deeply I become involved with medicine, through my work, education, shadowing, and volunteering, the more appealing it becomes. Now, I cannot imagine a more stimulating or fulfilling career. the unique opportunity which primary care physicians have to develop longitudinal connections with patients, providing continuity of care from conception to old age, is especially compelling for me. Also, I look forward to facing the variety of complex challenges inherent in managing a broad spectrum of patients and diseases. In addition, I believe it's important to invest the time needed to counsel, educate, and reassure patients. So remember that, y'all, if I run long. It's usually because I'm doing all of that in the clinic. So I would use my listening, teaching, and communication skills to do so. Finally, I'm also a lifelong learner and an avid reader. I plan to continuously keep abreast of new medical developments in order to provide the best possible care for my patients. Although the nostalgic image of the country doc has gone out of vogue for practical, economic, and social reasons, certain principles beneath the stereotype remain powerful, time-honored, and true. Family medicine is an approach which takes into account the social and psychological aspects of treating patients. I believe that a physician who understands the fabric of a community can use this knowledge to better communicate with patients, win trust, and gain a higher rate of compliance. Thus, I intend to keep the heart of these principles alive, by treating each patient as a whole person, by involving families in important health decisions, and by being an active community member. And this is, I'll just read that again because it is really so important. I intend to keep the heart of these principles alive by treating each patient as a whole person, involving families in important health decisions. Now, obviously, if you got a family you don't want involved, and that's okay. Not everybody is close to their family, but with those that do, it can be very, very helpful, especially with end-of-life care and such, and big decisions and such. And by being an active community member, getting to know the people, but also the community, I think is really vital. In addition, my hospice volunteer work has made me comfortable with the idea of making house calls when necessary, thus providing a personal touch to my service. My ultimate goal is not only to provide affordable and comprehensive primary care to a rural community, but also coordinate my efforts with a network of specialists and other health professionals. In time, we could create a community health center to enhance the quality and availability of care. Projects for the community would involve health screenings, vaccinations, educational seminars on topics such as nutrition and the benefits of exercise. We could develop an outreach program for talking directly with children, thus enriching the health education curriculums in the local schools. Finally, we could establish a program for visiting remote or tribal areas regularly, extending the reach and impact of our care. In a rural setting where each member of the community has a profound impact on the whole, a creative physician has so many opportunities to significantly uplift and benefit society. I hope to become such a physician, a leader and healer in the community. So, there it is. That's part of the vision that's kept me going for all these years, through the ups and the downs and the many rolls and blows of life, as it were. But, that's the type of thing. As you noticed, I got a little emotional as I read some of this, and it was actually quite amazing when I rediscovered this. I hadn't seen it in a number of years, but when I was going through, it had stuff on, okay, here's the big picture. Back in the day, I had to keep my GPA up, get through the medical school application process. I was reading Napoleon Hill's Science of Success, Definiteness of Purpose, making those little spider diagrams all over the place with some of these things. Learning about fear, learning about meditation, learning about physiology and all sorts of things that, how to choose a residency, how to what are the ideal doctor characteristics? In other words, who do I want to become? What positive aspects do I want to focus on? And so, as I have gone through life and have kept this vision kind of near and dear to my heart, everything that you go through basically becomes an opportunity. I'm part of a community choir, so I'm getting to know the community members, for example. I'm getting to know the community of people which I am working for and with in my current job right now. There's a kind of a specialized community there. And so the better that you're able to understand who it is that you're working with, the better you can meet the needs of those people. I don't know about how remote and rural this area is in the final analogy, as this dream is kind of getting close to getting to the next level, so to say. Now I'm studying extra leadership courses so that as I mature and reevaluate and continue to see if this massive dream, how is this going to manifest, what aspects, how much can I take on, and that sort of stuff, and so forth. It's kind of amazing, but people just kind of show up out of nowhere. A few days ago I was talking about a totally different topic with a colleague of mine, and they just volunteered out of the blue, you know what, when you need an office manager, I'm your guy, just call me up, let me in there. And I sit here thinking, I still don't know how I'm going to pay anybody yet. Might take me a while to figure out how to pay myself. But you know, that's the sort of thing. I've had people basically come up in clinic and just kind of say, hey, how's your dream clinic coming? When it gets time, you know, jot my name down, I'm going to help you out with the beginning of it, you know, and get you going, and then step back, you know. And so it's just really amazing, because you never know how much people are going to step forward and help you and moving towards those dreams once you articulate and get the word out. So who knows, maybe in 5, 10 years, 20 years, instead of just one little Rojo clinic, maybe if we do it well, then it might be something that can expand across the nation, a place where people can come in and patients can feel like they're heard, they can really get good quality education, knowing how not to be sick in the first place as much as humanly possible, as much as we know. And the benefits of these lifestyle medicine proven ideas, which of course are going to continue to improve over time too. You know, that's not a static goal. You don't say, hey, we figured it all out today, and then tomorrow, like, not have it. Or, you know, if you get too set in stone, then it makes it so you can't really change as much. But anyway, the idea is that you got to start somewhere, and right now I'm actually envisioning across the entire country little clinics like this, where people can develop personal relationships with their physician, and that it really enhances the life of both the medical providers as well as the patients themselves. Because I gotta tell you, one of the profound joys of being a physician is that connection with the hearts and the minds of the patients. I mean, it's not that everybody that comes in with a stubbed toe, you're going to have this meaningful, profound relationship. God, no, that would be like probably a little bit too much. But some people you just kind of click with. And then if they do come in with their stubbed toe, you know, you're not looking at just a person with a stubbed toe, but you know the whole person, you know the family, you know everything about them. And that's the kind of personal touch that I think that most people want and that are longing for, because the way that they've got the medical system set up now is it really is like an assembly line. You get people in, you get them out, you don't get to spend any time with them because you got to get more people in order to, you know, basically it's the production model. The more people that you see, the more money you bring in, and so therefore you can pay for more staff and keep the lights on and things like that. How to create a clinic environment that will, solve our healthcare crisis. I do not pretend to know all of that, but I do know that if we're able to create something right here in this community, right here in the Northwest Florida Panhandle, that sort of thing most likely can be duplicated in other places. And there are actually a bunch of physicians that are setting up their own independent clinics currently that are giving people a very personal touch. There's a lovely doctor named Pamela Weibel that I'll show you the cover of this one. This is a workbook that goes with her book. Kind of little humorous title, Pet Goats and Pap Smears, and basically 101 Medical Adventures to Open Your Heart and Mind by Pamela Weibel, MD. She's got a network, I think it's idealmedicalcare.org, if I remember right. Don't quote me on it. If you Google her, you'll find all of her resources. On service. How do I know if I've provided great service? It's not from a patient satisfaction survey. I can usually tell when I look out my office window and see my 50-year-old patient with pneumonia skipping through the parking lot with her balloon. So she's kind of got a little the touch of like Patch Adams and such as well in there. And basically little worksheets like imagine, dream, and draw your ideal clinic. Imagine, dream, draw your ideal doctor and stuff. And so she's actually kind of setting off or assisting or facilitating a series of physicians all over the United States that are basically setting up little micro practices. And so, or setting up their ideal practice, or getting back to that, what's your ideal dream? What's that thing that wakes you up and calls you to keep going when the going gets rough, and when you have to go on there. And so there's a whole bunch of different kind of business models and things like that go through. So that's kind of getting off into the weeds of how do you make something like this happen. Sometime in the next year or two, I plan to hold some community town hall meetings where I can take her drawing board kind of stuff and ask the community, what is it that you here in this town want to see from a primary care physician? And then once I get that, where do you want it to be in that same sort of visualization process in order to be able to bring that best possible service right here to the local community. And by putting all of those ideas together, then we can come up with something beautiful and potentially a model of healthcare that can be exported to anywhere where you have a community and a physician who kind of wants to get back to the basics. Seeing patients and taking care of them, and maybe if you do it in a certain way like that, it doesn't necessarily bring home the big bucks, as it were. Some of the folks that I'm networking with, they talk about, for example, having their patients do community service or do some other project or something else in exchange for the visit that day if they can't afford the care. And somebody asked, well, how do you actually go about checking to see if they've done that community service? And the response was essentially, why do you even have to check? You're giving to them, and if you know your person, the idea is that they kind of pass it along or pass it forward in some way. So anyway, that's about all I got for you. I'm gonna be going out on a trip this next week, so I probably will not necessarily do a doc talk next week, so this is your guiding vision to hold you over until then. And I hope that as time goes by, I get even better and better with this guiding vision. Doing these presentations on a weekly better has gotten me more comfortable, of course, in front of a camera and for giving presentations and things, and so again, that's just all part of the magic of having a reason to get up in the morning. So, alrighty. Well, thank you all for joining me. It's fun to have a live audience. Sometimes there's more than others, but it's just the ebbs and flows of life. Have a great evening and take care, and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Okay? Bye-bye. Thank you.